Masters of Horror was a TV show that came out in 2005, and it quickly became one of the boldest horror anthology shows ever made. Each episode was like its own scary movie, directed by a famous horror filmmaker who was given full freedom to do whatever they wanted. That meant no holding back. There was the kind of blood, gore, and creepiness you usually don't get on TV, but this was television that was ready to shock, disturb, and stick around in your nightmares. Some of the stories were weird, some were funny, but most were terrifying to their core, and it's the creepiest ones that linger in your mind long after you've watched them. Today, we're going through 8 of the creepiest episodes in Masters of Horror, which made this TV series unforgettable. Before we get into our list, though, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
What if you sacrificed it on camera?
Cigarette Burns. The first episode on our list is one directed by John Carpenter himself. The story follows a man named Kirby who's hired to find a rare film called La Fin Absolue du Monde. The problem is, the movie isn't normal. Everyone who watches it goes bat-crap crazy or violent, but because Kirby needs the money, he agrees to track it down. While on his search for the film, he meets several strange people along the way. Kirby finds that some of these people who have already seen the film treat it like a holy object, being completely obsessed with it. Some have even mutilated themselves and will kill anyone just to be close to it. There are shocking moments of violence where someone's intestines are pulled out while still alive. The deeper Kirby gets in his search, the darker things become. The scariest part is how the episode treats the film itself like a curse. Its scenes are claustrophobic, filled with blood and disturbing visuals, but gore isn't the most chilling part about it. It's the idea behind it. The terrifying idea that a piece of art could be so cursed it destroys anyone who sees it. Carpenter has mixed classic psychological horror with brutal gore while making it all feel real. The obsession people have with this film is like a cult. They don't care about life, only about seeing it again. That thought is enough to make you afraid of pressing play on Cigarette Burns, but we highly recommend watching it because it's one of the most unforgettable and unsettling episodes of the entire series. Dreams in the Witch House. Another creepy episode in the Masters of Horror anthology was Dreams in the Witch House, directed by Stuart Gordon. He's adapted a classic H.P. Lovecraft story where a college student named Walter moves into a cheap room in an old boarding house. The place seems quite run down, setting the stage for the horror to follow. Walter starts having strange dreams in which he sees bizarre symbols and shapes. The house itself seems to have strange angles and dimensions that don't make sense, almost like parts of it bend reality. Soon, he discovers that the place has a history with witchcraft. A witch who once lived in the house might still be using the place to reach into other worlds. He sees the witch performing rituals, dragging him into her plans which he can't escape. After a point, he can't tell the difference between reality and witchcraft. The witch is quite terrifying, using old spells and sacrificing children to keep her power. Walter, who just wanted a cheap place to live, ends up trapped in a battle he can't possibly win. The more he tries to fight the evil forces, the more he gets trapped by them. By the end, he's fully caught in the witch's power, showing how sometimes curiosity leads people straight into doom. By the end, you're left wondering if anything was ever real at all. Stuart Gordon, who also directed Reanimator, is excellent at translating Lovecraft stories into horror that feels surreal. Sick Girl. This one is different because it starts like a love story. Meet Ida, a shy and socially awkward woman who starts as an entomologist. Although she gets quite nervous in any social setting, she's comfortable with the insects she studies. However, things change for her when she meets a woman named Misty and starts a new romance. Initially, everything seems sweet and lovely, but then one of her pet insects joins the story, which changes everything. The episode takes a dark turn when one of Ida's bugs escapes and ends up biting Misty. After that, Misty begins to slowly transform. She starts reacting strangely in gross ways, and the romance suddenly becomes mixed with horror, creating an uncomfortable atmosphere. Watching the insects crawl into places they don't belong and seeing people start to physically change gives the kind of chills you can almost feel on your skin. This episode by Lucky McKee is quite disturbing, which is why it ranks as one of the best in Masters of Horror. Imprint. If you thought that the previous episode, Sick Girl, was the most disturbing one, watch the next on our list, Imprint. Imprint was directed by Takashi Miike, and it was so infamously horrific that Showtime refused to air it in the US. Takashi Miike, who's best known for his extreme films like Audition, tells the story of an American man searching for the woman he once loved. His search takes him to a remote island in Japan where he meets a disfigured prostitute who tells him her version of what might have happened to his lover. But the problem is, her story keeps on changing. Each time she speaks, the tale becomes darker, filled with shocking torture scenes and ghosts. There are scenes of graphic torture that are hard to sit through, while the truth keeps slipping away. Mutilated bodies, screaming victims, and ghostly figures redefine visual horror on TV. By the end, you'll feel drained, like you've witnessed something you shouldn't have. That's exactly why Showtime banned it, but it's also why horror fans still talk about it. Imprint is one of the most shocking pieces of horror television ever made. Incident on and off a mountain road. The next most creepy episode from Masters of Horror is Incident on and off a mountain road. The episode begins in a typical survival story fashion. A woman named Ellen is driving along a remote mountain road when she crashes her car. Stranded and alone, she suddenly finds herself hunted by a brutal killer named Moonface, who collects human parts as grisly trophies from his past victims. As Ellen tries to escape and outrun the stalking hunter, a strong cat-and-mouse tension builds up. You will almost feel sorry for the helpless Ellen, but as the story goes forward, we see her past and learn that she might not be as helpless as she looks. Flashbacks reveal that she has been taught survival skills by her abusive husband, and she now uses them against the killer. The hunter, Moonface, is also a terrifying figure, surrounded by his horrific home filled with corpses. What makes this episode so disturbing is the mix of psychological horror and gore. You feel Ellen's fear, but also her strength, and that creates a strange discomfort. Directed by Don Coscarelli, who made the supernatural movie Phantasm, this episode is also kind of a slasher story, making it one of the creepiest openings to the series Masters of Horror. Jennifer. Next up on our list of creepy episodes from Masters of Horror is Jennifer. A police officer named Frank saves a young woman named Jennifer from being killed. At first, it seems like a good deed, but there's something deeply wrong with her. Jennifer's face is deformed, although the rest of her body is quite attractive. Despite her strange appearance, Frank feels strangely drawn to her and even takes her into his home. But what follows next is a disturbing mix of obsession and desire. Even as Frank's life begins to fall apart, he becomes more and more attached to Jennifer. His family just can't understand it, as he starts losing control of everything he once cared about. Despite her deformed face, Frank can't resist her body, and Jennifer uses his desire against him, manipulating Frank at every step. What makes this episode particularly disturbing is the combining of horror and lust. Dario Argento, who's famous for his cult Italian giallo films like Deep Red and Tenebrae, has made every scene feel both appealing and disgusting at the same time. Jennifer leaves you questioning how much control we really have over our urges, and what happens if those urges destroy us. Family. At first glance, this episode looks lighter compared to the others. Even its name, Family, might give you the impression that it's a happy little family story. But guess what? It's not. Directed by John Landis, Family follows a man named Harold who comes to live in a quiet suburban neighborhood. On the outside, he seems quite friendly and harmless, but inside his house, he hides a terrible secret. He has kept the skeletons of his family with him, a wife, a daughter, and others, all posed and dressed up as if still alive. Harold even talks to them like they were real people. He's living a delusional life where his family loves him and everything is perfect, but the truth is terrifying. Harold is actually a lonely, disturbed killer. The creepiest part of the story is how he maintains his charade with the neighbors, always smiling and greeting them, but behind closed doors, he's actually living with corpses. The blend of suburban life with necrophilia is too uncomfortable for many to watch. After this episode, you'll wonder how many such Franks are hiding something terrifying behind their masks of normalcy in society. This episode will creep the hell out of you, which makes it unforgettable. Fair-haired child. Let us now move on to the final episode in our collection of the creepiest episodes in Masters of Horror. Our next story starts with a teenage girl named Tara who's kidnapped and locked in a basement by a strange couple. At first, it's confusing why they took her, but the truth soon comes out. Their own son, Johnny, died years ago. They've made a terrible deal to bring him back. To do this, they must sacrifice innocent girls like Tara to a dark force. In the cold and creepy basement dungeon, she eventually meets Johnny, but he isn't just a boy anymore. When the ritual begins, he transforms into a monster. Tara realizes too late that she was brought here to die for the twisted plan of the desperate parents. You can almost feel her helplessness through the TV screen. The transformation scenes and the design of the monster also create an atmosphere of pure gothic horror. The mix of tragedy with horror makes this episode one of the most unsettling in the series. On one hand, it's about parents who can't let go of their child. On the other, it's about Tara's trust and life being stolen from her. This episode is directed by William Malone, who also made the 1999 supernatural horror House on Haunted Hill. He's managed to induce fear in almost every scene, making Fair-Haired Child a perfect addition to our list. Marvelous verdict! Masters of Horror was something special, being ahead of its time in many ways. The TV series was specially made in the format of an anthology so that the viewers got a different story each time by a different director. And because these directors had the freedom to go as far as they wanted, each story is more disturbing than the last. These 8 episodes show just how bold the series could be. They left scars on the minds of anyone who watched them. From gothic atmospheres to physical and psychological horror, these episodes capture what real horror is meant to do. Even today, fans still talk about these episodes because they linger long after the credits roll. Unfortunately, that's all we got for you this time, but if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.